Hey everyone, this is a quick video to explain the fifth period work for this week. First of all, this is just a little bit of feedback from some of the fifth period work from last week. I'll be marking all of these like I mentioned in class. Okay, so just a little bit of a feel for this. So these are a couple of examples that come from yourselves. The example one or task one that you guys had to do, the point was made, the contextualized analysis in purple is that A04 mark, and in terms of this, this was all about perfectly competitive firms being allocatively efficient. In this particular example, in terms of the evaluation, the students had a reasonably good go at evaluation. They've included one of the key arguments regarding dynamic efficiency not being achieved. So in this instance, it said yes, it's allocatively efficient, however it's not dynamically efficient. So in terms of this, one of the key arguments surrounding the lack of profits, which means firms can't invest. Even better if they mentioned the key argument over including perfect information. Because perfectly competitive firms have perfect information, they have no incentive to invest in research and development because any competitive advantage they gained would be immediately lost. The second example actually is the other way around. So in this instance, the student has included the arguments over perfect information, but not over the absence of profits. Ideally, both of those are needed to give you a really solid evaluation. But again, this is a pretty good one. You would expect firms not to be dynamically efficient if there is perfect information, because any competitive advantage is immediately lost. Okay, in terms of the second example, now this was to do with productive efficiency, and what you guys had to do was to come up with that analysis that because leads to therefore ideally. And in terms of this particular student, what they've done, the explanation of productive efficiency is good, and then they've actually countered that with saying that economies of scale can't be achieved, such as can happen in markets dominated by large firms. So definitely gaining both A03 and A04 marks. Even better if they related the economies of scale to productive efficiency. They didn't really need to comment on social inefficiency, so try and keep one key evaluative point in each paragraph. Okay, so that will come with time, and again the student has done a pretty good job. Try and add contextualized examples where possible. Okay, same situation. Again, this student, if you have a little read along or pause the video, has made a pretty good explanation in terms of productive efficiency, A03, and they've attempted A04. But in this instance, what you really should be doing is aiming for depth in your evaluation. So you make your point, it's all about productive efficiency, and make one counter argument, but in depth. In this instance, the student involved has mentioned the unrealistic assumptions of perfect competition, the economies of scale argument, and also tried to give a real world they could have added a real world context, etc. But there's 2 or 3 arguments when all you need is one. Okay, so just try and remember that in your answers from now on. In terms of the third example, no initial point was actually made on this one, so just need to consider this dynamic efficiency doesn't exist in perfect competition, and it's been explained by the lack of incentive due to perfect knowledge. So two points mentioned there. So even better if make an initial point, perhaps perfect competition displays optimal levels of efficiency because it's allocatively and productively efficient, and then the counterpoint to that is it's not dynamically efficient. and obviously you can only include relevant examples. So one to do with Tesla batteries, actually you can't add that context here because it doesn't belong to perfect competition if you're trying to give an example related to perfect competition. Okay, last one of these. So the student has said perfect competition exhibits both X efficiency and Pareto efficiency. So, well, they've made the point, but actually there's 2 points there. So this ended up being a little bit confused, 1 point at a time. Okay, so I think what's happened is that the student has tried to hedge their bets, talk about X efficiency, and then probably thought, well, that's not enough, I need to include Pareto efficiency as well. In terms of the evaluation, again, it gets a little bit lost because they're dealing with too many points. They actually mention social inefficiency as well. So if you were going to include it, talk about real world markets, talk about merit goods, public goods, and so on. But really, there's too many. It's too busy. There's too many points being made here. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Deal with 1 point at a time, okay? And that will lead to that higher quality answer. Okay, over to your work for this week. In terms of what you guys have to do, you've got a couple of tasks. The first one is in relation to your alternative goals homework. So in terms of this, this is quite a simple task really. Yes or no, and in terms of your technique, and in terms of whether or not you did what is required for a 10-mark question, you need to self-evaluate against this. So did you, using a diagram, explain what short-run profit maximization is, include a definition, and then say why this might not take place, and you look to build chains of reasoning? Did you distinguish between short and long-run profit maximization, and explain why firms may pursue long-run profit maximization instead? So again, building on those chains of reasoning. Again, thinking of those connectives and those chains of reasoning, did you explain the divorce of ownership and control, and how and why firms subject to a profit constraint may be able to pursue other well-known objectives? Perhaps you can tick the key ones there that you included. Sales revenue maximization, sales maximization satisfaction. Did you use a diagram to support each explanation? Where you could, did you give real-world examples? Did you consider other additional aims, such as charity, state-owned corporations, etc., etc., because that would have given you quite easily those contextualized examples. Okay, so that's really important that you guys do that. I've just noticed I've left a couple of rows there. You can ignore those 2 rows there. And then in terms of that 10 marker, that's only going to take you 5 minutes maximum to do. Identify and rank areas for improvement on a 10 marker. Okay, and be as specific as possible. Okay, so you are going to have to submit that, and I want to see where you see your areas of the areas that you need to develop most. In line with what we did last week, okay, so the second task, similar to that, you're going to build on what we've been doing on perfect competition and monopoly, and look at that idea of pecan pie. So your point is explained, you give contextualized analysis, and then you make a point within your evaluation. Okay, so there's an example there that you guys can read. Whoops, just make that a little bit bigger. So that one's been done for you. And then in terms of yourselves, okay, I've given you an example in relation to perfect competition and monopoly. Look at the question. Perfect competition in all markets for goods and services would maximize efficiency in the economy. The government should therefore aim to achieve the situation. Discuss. Okay, now the key thing is it's talking about efficiency in perfect competition in every market. Would that maximize the efficiency? Okay, so you need to think about efficiency under perfect competition, and if that's always and if that's the case, would it maximize efficiency in the economy? But you've got to look at other market structures such as monopoly to judge whether that's always the case. So think about the pros and cons of both perfect competition and monopoly. And you can consider the realism of perfect competition, whether the government could achieve that. Okay, and if it could, would the economy be competitive? Because that's got to be a measure of efficiency as well. Try and give contextualized analysis where possible. So in terms of this, I've given you guys one example. Read through it carefully. It will give you good support. Okay, so just in terms of this, you have this idea about productive efficiency that then is explained, okay, in terms of that contextualized analysis. And then the point in evaluation, you talk about monopolies being productively inefficient, probably because of wasteful advertising and production. Okay, so that makes it sound as if all markets were perfectly competitive, it would maximize efficiency in the economy. But then you give a contextualized example to explain why that might not happen. Domestic working monopolies such as Tesco may benefit from significant economies of scale. Give examples, which means they could produce at a lower price and a higher output compared to perfect competition. Okay, and if that's the case, monopolies may be more productively efficient than perfect competition. And now look what I'm going to do. I evaluated that, but now I'm going to throw this back and offer critical evaluation. Okay, so now I'm going to say, well, actually, monopolies, because of their market power, they often charge higher prices, which may limit output and economies of scale, and hence the productive efficiency attained. So I've offered evaluation and counter evaluation. Okay, really maximizing those A04 marks. Notice it's all about productive efficiency. Okay, and a contextualized example. So in terms of yourselves, you guys have got 1.5 really to complete yourselves. So I've given you the start point about perfectly competitive firms being allocatively efficient in the long run. I've explained or started you off in terms of analysis for perfect competition and allocative efficiency. You then have to develop the point regarding monopoly, and then you're going to have to come up with something else. Okay, so you need to evaluate that point. Okay, so think about that. I've given you, use your notes. You should be able to do well on that. And then the last one, you guys get to decide for yourselves. So you can see there's a whole series of places you can begin in terms of looking at efficiency, and you are going to have to come up with that contextualized analysis and that point in evaluation. Okay, so that's your work for this week, guys. Good luck with it. Okay, make sure that you focus on this. This is going to have a big impact on your grades in coming weeks, and obviously in the main external assessment and whatever else we have to provide this year. Okay, good focus, spend quality time on it. Thanks all.